existence, they will die. How to save the company, how to find the seeds, how to plant the seeds in time. How, we make a statement often that if you're going to be disrupted, you should know that, and you should know who's going to do it, and you should become your own disruptor. I mean, why wait? Well, the story of Fujifilm is fascinating. It's going to be basically a classic in the history of corporations that were facing a devastating blow to their lives and then recovered just like a phoenix rising from the dead, being reborn, reinvented, and so on. So I'm so excited about the Fujifilm story. Remember that Kodak and Fuji were fighting each other. Kodak was the leader. Fuji was just trying to aspire to have a share of the market. By the year 2000 itself, they were almost equivalent. In fact, in 2001, Fuji for the first time sold 37% and Kodak only 36%. So, but the industry would look very wonderful to both firms. Then the digital revolution, not the need for film anymore to make good pictures. At the time, people were saying, well, they would never make pictures as good as pictures on film. So that led sales to continue for a while, but by the year 2007, I think demand had fallen 80% for both companies for actual film. So what should be done to save Fujifilm? Kamari-san, their leader, said there's so many technologies involved in producing film that could be useful in other areas. And in fact, it was said that even making color film takes 20 different layers and operations before it's ready to take a picture in color. And he wanted his people to think of what are the technologies that are very proprietary and very special that can be transferred to such areas as healthcare, equipment to measure medical things, imaging, the X-ray, which Fuji was very good in, and maybe even things for lifestyle, cosmetics or something like that. So he knew that there would be other possible markets. Question is, how does he talk to his people who are so concerned about their jobs, about how to be patient and believe that they can not only survive, but become a bigger company than they were? And he convinced them that if they turn to innovation, in fact, it wasn't said at the time, never stop innovation. That was picked up later as the branding idea. But if they turn to innovation, if they turn to societal concerns, making the world a better place, if they turn to humane management, humane marketing, humane innovation, the company can make it. It may have been 75,000 people whose lives were affected by this. He wanted to be sure that they would have work and jobs. He did know that he had to contract the work being done on making physical film because there's not a customer anymore, but that he would find other jobs. Remember, he brought in the idea of open innovation, that if you watch not only your own technologies, but you watch what's happening in innovative companies around the world, and you work with other experts, not in the employment of Fuji, but who could be approached. And by the way, he had this realization that in going into a new market, he would have much of what's needed in the technology already in the company, but he wouldn't have everything. he would need some skill sets that were missing. And then he went on a career of mergers and acquisitions. And there have been many in the company to make up for missing ingredients in the innovation process. The fact is, there's so many things that can be done with the skill set that they inherited from working with film. They're very good at nanotechnology, working with very miniature things. They can move molecules around. Maybe there may be 20 markets they could go into, but they made a smart decision that healthcare is not only a stable industry, it's a growing industry. People around the world are aging. In Japan particularly, it hits you in the face that people are living longer and have health problems that go along with that life. So the question is, what kinds of equipment would help us help people who see doctors and have problems? Well, we're very good at imaging equipment. That's the very nature of Fujifilm. Fuji, in fact, realizes that this problem of, let's say, breast cancer, all women should be checked regularly on this. And it's a painful process. Imaging, if you can do better imaging, and Fuji is doing that, it makes it a much more comfortable process, and it's a contribution. In fact, Fuji's been looking at the United Nations global goals for health and other things to see what the main valuable solutions would be for the world. And actually, instead of just looking at the whole health field, looking at very specific things that are problematic and need solutions. And I've been saying recently that all firms should not only be making good products and profits and so on, they should be asked once a year to report in what ways they have made a contribution to society. It should be like another page in their annual report. Fujifilm would have no problem with that. In fact, their whole raison d'etre, reason for being, is to contribute to society. And therefore it attracts people in the company who are very outer-directed. They think about others and not just about themselves, which is the essence of being humanity and humane. So there's a wonderful set of things that are foundations for the success of the company. The question is, when you make good products and make good money, what do you do with the money? Do you declare it as dividends to the shareholders? Is it your purpose in the company to increase the wealth of the shareholders? By the way, that was the philosophy taught in the United States and in the West for all these years, ever since Professor Milton Friedman, who was my professor at the University of Chicago, argued in his books that the purpose of a company is just to make money for the owners, the shareholders, and not to get distracted by social causes or let the owners who get a lot of the return decide what they want to do to help the world if they want to. So that philosophy was called shareholder philosophy. I'm happy to report that a business roundtable, which is where all the top CEOs belong, IBM belongs, General Electric, had bought into that philosophy all these years. A few days ago, the report came out. They've changed the mission of a business. The mission of a business is to make the world a better place. The mission is to show caring for the issues issues of poverty, issues of climate. Let's make a better world. And once that happens, companies will change. Well, it's already happened to Fujifilm. They didn't need the round table because Fujifilm's very commitment is to help the world become a better place for more people. For any company to be successful, it must have good management, good marketing, good innovation. And when Peter Drucker, the famous management expert, was asked, what does a company need to be successful? He said two things, innovation and marketing. If they only had innovation but poor marketing, they would not be successful. If they had clever marketing but nothing new to sell, they wouldn't be successful. So that formula, innovation and marketing, actually brought Kamali-san and myself together in what has been a fusion called the Kotler-Kamari methodology. Kamari representing the innovation intensity and myself representing the marketing intensity. Put together, I think that goes a long way, those two, to explaining the success of the company, which is outstanding. I am so excited about it because as a marketer who knows a lot about branding and defining a company as special and unique and different, we need something to say that makes it different. And what that message says, never stop, is that innovation in a world which is full of problems and changing all the time, you can't stand still. A company that stands still will disappear. A company that is following the changes, seeing opportunities in change. In fact, how do you look at change? Is change a threat or is it an opportunity? To Fujifilm, it's an opportunity. And so are all these problems. Give me problems. I want to work on them. So never stop means that until the world is a perfect place, we should never stop. The idea is very, very compelling. The sense of it is there's so much to do. And we'll never stop until there's no more problems to solve.
Never stop. Fujifilm. Value from innovation.
So are we all walking with Professor Philip Kotler on the path of making a better world? Yes? Yes. I can't hear a yes. I'm hard of hearing. Yes or no? Yes. Superb. So once again, can we have a big hand for Professor? And we really miss his presence here today. And now, in a very fast-paced life, we need to be even faster to stay in the place. And next up is a very distinguished speaker. He is the Professor